Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, don't say anything bad about me now because we're recording it, okay? Okay, so again, at the pyramid, is all of our operational plans. At the group level up here is what we have, what we call macro level performance monitoring, and it's basically the dashboard screen. The dashboard screen is dynamic, so depending on the group you have selected as to what you're going to see. So I could see the entire department on one screen. I could look at just my strategic plan on one screen. I could look at any division, office, or program, and we'll go through and look at some of those examples in here. Now, at the macro level, you're seeing a very, very high level and very big picture here. Sometimes things start going wrong down at the lower levels, what we would consider to be the objectives and the activities. And you may not notice them because they're kind of buried in at the macro level. So it's nice to be able to go down and look at every planning element at every level and get the status of the planning element here. So that's the micro level. We'll talk about some examples of that. And then VMSG Public is kind of the last thing we're going to go over, and that is the ability to take and create public-facing, very simple web pages for any of the data elements in the system here. The reason the performance monitoring is critical is because, if you recall, every plan is going through this PDCA cycle. So up here is where we're actually doing the planning and then executing the plan. Checking is this monitoring. So we're checking on the status of the plan. So in fact, the plan, hi Victoria. You're muted, but that's okay.
Oh, she must be muted, yeah.
That's all right. So when we get to the check phase, this is where we're going to use the performance monitoring. So what we're doing in the check phase is comparing our plan to our actual, and we'll go down and look at examples of that in here. And without the check phase or without the performance monitoring, you can't do a check phase. You don't have anything to compare to your plan. So that's why this is kind of critical what we're talking about today. Now let's go back and kind of review the pyramid, and we're going to talk about the same plan we talked about before. We're going to talk about tobacco cessation. So the group level, again, is where the dashboard is. So let's take you into your system here. And this is your group screen. So at the very top, you have department administration. Underneath that, you have your workforce development plan. You got your strategic plan, your CHIP, another version of your strategic plan down here. And by the way, we can archive these older plans. We'll put them down here in a group down at the bottom called archive. Your QI plan, two different versions of your QI plan, your staff. So this is basically the structure of your health department to some degree down here, plus the primary plans. And like I say, today we're going to talk about your strategic plan. We get into the VMSG Public. Now back to the pyramid. So underneath the groups, then each group has a set of services or initiatives. Services, again, being the things that you're doing now, like WIC is a service that you're providing. Initiatives are those things you want to do in the future. And we're going to use, again, that example of a tobacco cessation initiative. Underneath that, then you have a set of goals, which have a set of SMART objectives, which have a set of activities. And then looking down at the plan, again, the Tobacco 2023 group, tobacco cessation. Under tobacco cessation, we're going to say reduce smoking in high schools. Under reduce smoking in high school, we're going to pick a very specific high school, Wayne High School, reduced by 25% by the end of the school year. And then the activities we're going to do, we're going to create a training curriculum, provide 9 training sessions a month, and then contact the local tobacco vendors to make sure they're not doing bad things. So this is, again, the example we're going to use. So for now, we're going to go up and look at our groups screen, and we're going to look at the dashboard for our groups. Since we have a lot of data in the demo org, I'm going to go take you back over to our USA Public Health organization as we're looking at the different groups here. So things are moving slowly here. Okay, so I've gone to USA Public Health. I'm going to go down to my groups tab now. I'm going to go down to, so looking at our groups here, we got our department, we got our FAB 6-pack of plans under here, got administrative group, finance, HR, IT, et cetera. I'm going to go down to my community health division now. And so let's say when I come in the morning, I'm the community health director. I come in the morning and I just want to know, hey, how is community health performing? So by automatically selecting when I log in because it's my default group. It automatically selects it. I can go right up here to the traffic light button, click on that. And what that's going to do then is go up and gather all of the data for community health and then the two subgroups of tobacco and WIC that are directly related to community health. And it's going to give me the information for all three of those groups on one screen. The reason we always do the first two subgroups, the first level of subgroups underneath the group, is because the people who are managing the WIC and the tobacco group are reporting to the community health director. So he's going to want to see everything within his sphere of influence here. So here's the dashboard screen again. Start out at the very top. This button up here, home page, what that says is if I want to come to this page directly when I log in without having to do anything else, I can set this as the home page. There's two other screens I can set as my home page. One of them is the main menu, which is the default, and the other one is the reports menu. So sometimes you'll have like an administrative assistant who might report directly to the health director, and her job or his job is to actually go in on a regular basis and generate a report for the health director. So they might want to go directly to the reports menu, click on the operational plan report button, and generate the report, something along that line. So you got your choice of three different home pages. Over here is the group that I'm looking at. So it says USA Public Health is the organization. The group is Community Health Division. If I click on this button, it's going to just basically take me back to the group screen so I can select a different group. Down the left side here, you see the different levels we can look at. So these are the three bottom levels of the pyramid, if you will, the goals, the objectives, and the activities. For now, I'm looking at the activity level. And what I'm looking at in the traffic light are the number of traffic lights in each status. And you'll notice when I roll over, I can click down on these particular activities. Instead of me having to go find out, okay, where are these four activities? I can just click on this. It's going to take me to the four activities that are highlighted in yellow at this point in time. So I can go in here and take a look at them and maybe fix some things or maybe make some assignments to my staff or something like that to get them back on track in here. So I can click on anything on that dashboard to take me immediately to where I am. Now I can either go back to the dashboard by clicking on the back arrow here or go back to the traffic light button again. I'm going to click on my back arrow. Now, every time I go back to the dashboard, it's got to go in and recalculate everything. So again, it takes about 10 to 15 seconds to recalculate the dashboard. The reason that is, you can say, well, you didn't change anything on this screen. Why do you need to recalculate the dashboard? Well, remember, it's a multi-user system. You can have all kinds of people in the background making changes that you're not aware of while you're doing it here. So you got to recalculate it every time. Again, so I can drill down on anything in here. The other thing I'm looking at is the schedule gauge. So here's how we calculate that. At the activity level, there's a beginning date, an ending date, and a % complete for every activity. Some of them are calculated differently, but at bottom line is you have beginning date, ending date, % complete. So let's assume that our activity is set to January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. And let's assume today is July 1st, 2023. That should be exactly 50% of the way through the year, halfway through the year. So if we're halfway through the year and our activity status says we're 50% done, then we're exactly on schedule. If our activity status says we're only 40% done, then we're 10% behind schedule. If we're 60% done, we're 10% ahead of schedule. So that's how this calculation is done. And then it's aggregated across these 23 activities that are showing up on the traffic light here to say that on average, we're 3 days ahead of schedule, which is really good. And that could mean, by the way, that some of them are behind schedule, some of them are ahead of schedule, but on average, it's 3 days ahead of schedule. So this is my first look here. And a lot of times this is all you need to look at. If you have everything that's green and gold and your green up here being ahead of schedule, all is good. Now, when this thing gets down to slightly behind schedule, it turns yellow. 60 days behind schedule, it turns red. So just by looking at green, and again, ideally you want everything to be green and gold, and you're on track here. Down at the bottom, we have a couple of different drill downs. Number one is our people. So as you recall, we assign activity leads at the activity level. Every activity should have leads assigned to it. These are the people responsible for the activity. So that's these folks down here on the left column. Over here in the first column, we see the last time this person updated their information. The reason this is critical is because ideally you want to work with real-time updates on everything. The green indicates less than 30 days ago it was updated. The yellow indicates 30 to 60 days, which, by the way, could be okay. It means maybe at the end of the month somebody was on vacation when the email came out to do the update, so they didn't get it updated. The red, however, indicates it's over 60 days, meaning they've gone through at least a couple of email cycles and not done their update in here. So again, it might be worth a chat with Mara to just say, hey, what do we need to do to train you to get back on track on keeping your information up to date? This is also kind of a mini audit. So if you think about it, let's say I'm the community health director. Maybe I have a monthly meeting with my staff, and I can bring up this screen here and I can show them this column and say, look, what this is telling me is that if you're on this list and you're green, it means great. You've been updated less than 30 days ago. If you're yellow, it's 30 to 60, and there's some things that could happen to cause that. If you're red, you need to kind of figure out what's going on here to get back on track. And I guarantee you, if you show this screen to them at the first meeting, the second meeting, every one of these will be green. So, there's an old adage that says people listen to what you say, people do what you audit. Consider this to be kind of a mini audit. And ideally, again, if you have everything green, you're working with real-time information as you're doing your check phase. The FTE column here is again showing me the loading by employee. So if we assign everybody to activities, we can look and say, hey, Fred is way underloaded at a 0.3. Tom is getting up there at a 0.7. You got some people at a 1.6 and 2.35, meaning that they're well overloaded. So you might want to move things around so people are kind of at a 1.0 FTE. The lagging column shows me that I have activities that are calculated to be behind schedule. So it's the same calculation we talked about up here. It's just calculating that, hey, we're a little bit behind schedule. The days column is the same as the schedule gauge, but for the individual person. So it says that Diane is 56 days ahead of schedule on all of her assigned activities, whereas Andrea down here is 17 days behind schedule. Overdue just means that we have at least one activity that is past the ending date and not yet 100% complete. And then the red, yellow, green, and gold. So by just looking across here, I get a good snapshot of how the person is performing against the assignments we've made at the activity level. My second view here is my groups view. My groups view, again, is going to be my community health division, which we've selected, and the groups underneath it that report directly to it. So community health is a level 2 group. These are level 3 groups that report to it. Now, if there were groups underneath here, let's say under WIC, there was another group of some sort that was like a level 4 group. I can hit the show subgroups button up here and it'll take this all the way down. In this case, these are the only groups under community health. And then over here, we have basically the same information I was just talking about, but for the groups versus the people. And then my third view is my strategic priorities. And at the top level of your strategic plan are typically between 3 and 7 strategic priorities. What those are is, again, the top level of your strategic plan. And what I want to do here is to look at that and say, how are we doing against the priorities in our strategic plan with everything else in the system here? So we go through a mapping process that we talk a little bit about, three-dimensional planning, to be able to map all of these against everything else in the system. So again, we can kind of bring this data out to show how we're doing against our strategic plan. So that's the 3 drill downs down here. Up here in the top right corner where I have my priorities, these are individually selectable objective level elements here that you personally want to keep your eye on. So remember, they're the targets, if you will. So if I roll my mouse over, you can see this is what group, service, goal, objective it's under here. And if I wanted to, so this one is green. I don't necessarily need to watch it anymore if it's green. So in order to get that off there, I'll just click on it. It's going to take me to that particular objective right up here at the top. And this little green flag down here is what puts it on that dashboard screen. So if I click on this flag, it turns gray. When I go back to my dashboard, it should be gone up there. Now this dialog is telling me something. If you notice down here at the bottom of the cookie crumb, it says Tobacco 2023 is the currently selected group. We were on community health, but the activity, because it was in the subgroup, we selected it. It now takes us down to the tobacco group. So what it's saying, do you want to see a dashboard for the tobacco group, or do you want to go back and look at the dashboard for community health? I'm going to go ahead and say go back to community health. And again, it'll recalculate the dashboard screen for us here. So those are the 3 primary areas, and you'll notice the green is gone up here. Again, typically these are things that either you're working on or your team's working on, and you just want to keep them front and center. And usually they're yellows and reds, because if they're green and gold, they're either on track or completed in here. So that's my dashboard screen. Now, as we talked about before, the dashboard screen is also available on your phone. And just to reiterate, there's no app for this. We call this a dynamic app. And what that means is the application is actually built in the web browser dynamically on your phone. So you're going to go to exactly the same login you would at your desktop, which is login.vmsgdashboard.com. You're going to use exactly the same login credentials. If you're on your phone, the system realizes you're on your phone and it opens up the VMSG mobile app for you. So this is the same functionality you just saw broken into 3 phone screens, just due to screen real estate here. So this is the top left corner, the bottom, the top right corner. And again, everything's the same. I can drill down on it. I can look at my 3 different levels up here, my groups, my priorities. Everything's the same, except you can do it on your phone and not have to be sitting at your desktop here. Next thing we're going to talk about is micro level performance monitoring. And that is, again, on the pyramid down at the objective and activity level. So we'll go back here, and I'm going to go back to my groups tab. I'm going to select my tobacco group, same one we were working on the other day. I'm just going to go ahead and navigate on down to tobacco cessation, reduce smoking in high schools. My objective here is to reduce smoking at Wayne High School by 25% by the end of the school year. Now, the micro level charts is this chart button right here. So if I click on that, what it's going to show me is over time, how much have we reduced our smoking at Wayne High School? So you notice at the beginning of our program, we had 0 reduction, obviously. And then as we were working through it, we got our reduction going up and got to our 25% target.
I'm sorry, can you show us how you got there again?
Oh, sure. From any objective or activity, this little chart button down here at the bottom.
Okay.
And that's from which category?
From objectives. Okay.
Either objectives or activities got the same button.
Okay.
Okay.
The date range.
Yeah. Can you show us the date range when you do that?
The date range here.
Because on ours, it picks up the date that we entered them.
Oh.
Yeah, it does, exactly. It picks up the date range, the date when you hit the save button on the activity or the objective, it generates a history record. We'll talk about that here in a minute here. But the history record is where the data comes from. So it's this date down here at the bottom. And we'll show you how you can change those if you need to. If you're putting in historical data, I'll show you how you change them.
Okay.
Okay, so let's look at some of the other features on this particular screen. So the basic is generating what we call raw data points. So raw is every data point that's in the history file here. I can also look at just the either the last value or the average value for any of these ranges: days, weeks, months, quarters, or years. So let's say we're entering data on a weekly basis, and I just want to see one data point for each month. So I can select the month here, and then I can go up here and I can say either the last value for the month or the average value for the month. Here's where you might select last or average. If it's something that is continually increasing like this one did, going up over time, probably the last value makes more sense. So where were we at the end of the month? If you got a little chart that's going up and down here, like we're going to do 9 training sessions a month, it's kind of meandering up and down, you might want to look at the average value for the month. So let's say I had a data value every week in there. I can show it by hitting the raw time frame up here, and it'll show me every data value. And then I can just go down and say, I just want to see one data value per month, and I want to see the last value for every month in there. So that's what this is. The time frame up here that you see, the from and to date, what that does is just narrow down the horizontal axis here. So I could go down and say, I just want to see everything from April 15th, 2021, which would be this data point here, through January 1st, 23. And then it's just going to narrow down the horizontal frame for this chart to be right in here. So that's these controls up here. Objectives have the ability to look at either percent or values, and it's going to depend on how you've selected it at the objective level in here. And then the scale. So you notice the top of our scale is 27%. What that does when it's set to auto, it says take the highest value in here, in this case 25, and multiply it by 110%. So that's where it's actually 27.5% up there. So if I hit the auto, it's going to give me that. Now I can also say I want to see 100% scale. And if I do that, then you notice it brings it way down here. So it's not as clear looking at here as the growth as it was on the auto scale, but it is the top of 100% scale. So you have your choices to do either of those in here. Typically auto is the default that you're going to use in here. So this is the micro level chart, and those are all the capabilities that you have to look at the chart in different ways. Now, if you are a org admin or a manager user, you'll see this little save button down here, save defaults. And what that means is I can set my values up here for dates. I can set the time frame. I can set last value. I can set my scale, and then I can save it. And when I do that, again, as a manager or an org admin, everybody else who goes in there will see the values that I saved. So the chart will look like I saved it. Now, once they're in there, they can go in and play around with all these values in there temporarily. So while they're in the chart, they can select the date range, they can select the time frame, all that kind of stuff in here. But when they leave and go back in, it's going to come back to the values you saved in there. So typically what it is a historical record, and you want everybody to kind of look at it the same way when they're looking at it as a historical record. So again, those folks can go ahead and save that in there. Now, the history file. So let's talk about where does this data come from? So all these data points are captured, and they're captured when you save an objective or save an activity. And they're captured in the history file. So let's go take a look at the history file here. So I'm going to go down here. The history file is this hourglass button. I'll click on it. And what it's going to do is show me basically every time I saved that record in here. So the first thing you see over on the left is who and when. So it's got the person's name and the date. And then you got what they did. They added it or they updated it, basically. You got the traffic light status, the objective number, the objective description, any notes that appear. You'll notice that they appeared later on in the cycle here. And then down here is the status. So this is what we're actually mapping in this particular case. Now, if you wanted to add a historical data record in here, you can do it this way. I can go back to here. Now down here in the bottom, what I do is probably put in saying that maybe a year ago we were at 5% or something. I can change that to 5% in there. I can go ahead and hit the save button. When I do that, it's going to save a data record, but it's going to have today's date on it. So then what you do is go into here. You're going to go to that. It'll be the top data record because it's today's date. These are in reverse chronological order. So I'm going to click on that. Now down here at the bottom, you notice the date shows up. So again, if you are an org admin or a manager user, you'll be able to update this date. So I could take it back to say 2021 because it's a historical record, save it. Maybe at some point in time, I accidentally duplicated records in here and I want to remove one of them. Same thing, I can click on the record here and I can go in and hit the red X and it'll give me a dialog box that says, be sure you want to delete it. So that'll allow me to delete the historical record in here. So again, history records are basically every time you hit the save button here, it generates a history record. If you want to go in and change the date, you can do that. If you want to go in and say, hey, I got too many of my, I want to delete it, you can do that just through the hourglass here. So that is micro level performance monitoring. Questions?
I guess I have a question. When with that chart showing up like the percentages,
yep,
you're deciding where you would be the one deciding what percentage it goes up every time you do an activity?
Yeah, you're updating, or whoever is responsible for updating the activity. So at the activity level or the objective level, you've got this person down here, in this case, Steve Hansen.
Right.
Steve is going in on a regular basis, getting an email from the system, the real-time planning, and he's going to go in and update this value down here based on wherever he's gathering the data from, the percent reduction. And the same thing at the activity level. The activity level I have, in this case, Diane Cox is our activity lead. She's updating this value over here on the bottom.
Right.
That's where they come from.
So my question, I guess, is for the objective, when you see the chart objective, like what decides what percentage is what?
I don't understand your question. This is the percentage that it's mapping down here. Every time I save it,
You
what-
put the percentage of
here.
it. And it decides, so it knows every time you have an activity in to go up 25%?
no,
You manually
whatever.
Oh, you manually do each one.
Remember what this is the percent reduction in smoking. So somewhere we're collecting, I don't know where you're going to collect it. Somewhere you're going to collect that data and say, as of today, we are at a 27% reduction. And you're going to put that data in there, you're going to save it. That then is what appears on the chart under today's date.
Okay.
Okay.
Understood. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm just trying to imagine it with like the specific objectives we have in mind, but okay. Thank you.
Yeah, this is the data element that you're updating for the objective down here. Whatever you put in there is what's going to map on the chart at the date that you save it. Is that okay? Okay, let's go ahead and move on then. So the next thing we're going to talk about are our reports. Now there's a whole bunch of reports in the system. We're going to talk about the primary ones, probably what you'll use 90% of the time. But there's a couple of reports in here that we're not going to get into today. That is the category tag report, the categorization report, and the categories report. These are all related to three-dimensional planning, which is another training that we'll go through probably in about another month after you get, you're comfortable with the system moving around, putting your plans in there. Then we'll go through the three-dimensional planning and go through those reports. They're really pretty simple, but what I want to focus on today is the operational plan report, the team lead report, and the partners reports in here. So let's go take a look at some of those. So I'm going to go back up to my tobacco group here, select it. Now, one thing to know about reports. Reports can be generated at one of two levels. Either the group level itself, in this case, my tobacco group would appear on one report, or I could say I just want to see one of the services or initiatives. So how you can determine that is looking down here at the cookie crumb. So when I do my mouse over, you'll see the USA Public Health says it's USA Public Health. Then down here, we have tobacco programs for 2023. Then over here, you have the service initiative, goal, objective, and activity. If these are all empty over here, as you see now, the report will be at the group level. If I go down to my service or initiative level and say, I just want to see tobacco cessation, now you'll notice that service one, it appears down here. When I roll over, it says tobacco cessation. If I generate the exact same report, it's going to be just for tobacco cessation. So I'm going to go back to my groups tab here and reselect the group. So you'll notice even in my groups tab, I still have this service initiative. It hasn't cleared yet. If I reselect the group, then it clears. What that means is when I generate the report, it's going to be for all of the services or initiatives. So to generate that report, I just go up to the reports menu, the blue one in the top right here, click on that. So the top one, operational plan report, is by far the most commonly used report. My guess is 80 or 85% of what you use. I'm going to go ahead and select that report. Now, as you recall in the operational planning training we did, on the bottom of the service initiative screen, there's a little button down here, a checkbox that says hide service. That's for archiving purposes. You may or may not want to include that data in your report. Typically you don't. And by the way, if you're a normal user, you don't even get this option in here. You don't ever see it. If you're a manager or an org admin user, you'll see the option to include it in your report. In this case, we're going to say no, we're just looking at current data. So then the operational plan report that's going to get generated for the tobacco program will be here. So at the top of the report, we have our vision, mission, and values, just kind of keeping it front and center with you here. And as we get down into the report itself, we start out at the group level. So we got our tobacco group in here. Our first initiative is tobacco cessation. Our first goal is reduce smoking in high schools. The blue is all the notes that you put in at any level down here. The data source is that data source link that you can put in anywhere at the goal, objective, and activity level. And what that is a link to a website or web page that has the data that I need to update my plan in there. I have my objective down here. I have my objective leads over here. I got the current status of my objective. I got the notes again. I got all the traffic lights. I got all my notes down here again at the activity level, the people who are responsible for the activity, the status of the activity. So everything you want to know but we're afraid to ask is included in this report. It's the most detailed performance monitoring tool. Not typically needed by most people. Most people kind of want to know, again, how are we doing in here? But for this level, you got a lot of options on this report. So as you recall, we were able to generate a report at any group level. So in this case, my tobacco group has no subgroups, so the show subgroups button wouldn't do anything. But if I was up at the community health level where I had tobacco and WIC underneath it, I could say show subgroups, and it's going to show me the report for community health plus tobacco plus WIC. So it gives me that option in there. The date range allows me to select the only planning element that actually has a date associated with it, other than in the text of the objective, is the activity. And the activity has a beginning and ending date. Now, there's a lot of times when you're going to want to say, okay, what was I supposed to have completed last month? So we have an activity with an ending date here of 3/1 of 2023 in here. I could go in with this date button and pick a beginning and ending date. And it's just going to say, I just want to see activities that the ending date is within this date range. And here's where you might use that. So maybe I want to go say, what was I supposed to have got completed in August? We're getting to the end of August. You can generate that. And if any activities show up that aren't completed in August, you can go and look at it and say, oh, I forgot to finish that one up. Or I can look and say, what am I supposed to be doing in September? So I can go look at the ending date of the activity that's supposed to be ending in September, meaning I'm supposed to have completed it in September. I can look at it and do that. So it just allows you to generate a report that's filtered by date. And the date is the ending date of the activity. I also have a button up here for documents. So when I select the documents, what that does is just basically show me where all the documents are attached in the system. So you notice we have two of them in here. So I've got my tobacco cessation plan document attached to my initiative. And then down here under the goal, you see I have my CHA partner list attached to the goals down here. And then I can have documents attached anywhere at the group level, all the way down to the activity level. So this shows me or hides the documents in there. The data source, again, is that data source that we, in this case, put at the goal level for where am I going to go to get the information to update the goal. Yeah, so that's, and the next one is all the blue in here. So let's say you have this plan that's been in there for a year and you've gone in and updated it every month and you've got a lot of notes in there. You might want to show somebody the plan without the notes in there just to kind of bring it down. So I can hit this hide button up here. And when I do that, what it does is just basically take out all the notes in there. So you're looking at the raw plan without any notes in there. So it gives you that ability in here. The other one is, again, assuming we had a really long plan, like maybe 100 activities or something. And if I just want to go down and say, I just want to see those activities that are in red status, I can do this. I can go down and drop down, click red. Then what it's going to do is filter all the activities. And I think you'll see there's only one down here that's in red status. It's going to show me all the rest of the plan. It's going to have all the context with it. But the only activity that shows up is the one that's in red. And again, where that might be, good is if I'm looking, where are we on the strategic plan? And what do we have that's maybe reds and yellows in there that I can look at, figure out how we can get them taken care of in here. So again, go back to all, that filters to everything. Now, this status flag, what it filters is dependent on what you have selected at the level over here. Right now, we're filtering activities. I can go to my objectives here. If I do that, it basically takes away the activities down here and just shows me my objectives. So I've got my goal or my initiative, my goals, my two different objectives down here. Now, if I were to do this filter, say yellow, it would take out this green objective, just show me the yellow objective. So I'd be filtering at the objective level, or I can just say I want to filter at the goal level here, same thing. So now I just have the goals in there. So that's the and service levels, the other one up here. So that is the operational plan report. Now, to get every report out of the system, basically, you've got a couple of options here. So by clicking on this button, what it does is save the report as an HTML file. HTML is HTML, which is a web language, basically. The reason we chose that is because HTML is extremely well formatted. It can import directly into Microsoft Word. It is a web page in itself. So if you wanted to display the report as a web page on your website, you can do that. But once I generate this, I'm going to go in and say, I'm going to save that report. So I just pick it. The default is, VMSG report.html. I'm going to go ahead and save it on my desktop here. And when I do that, it's going to give me a little drop down here. It says I can open the report, or I can go to my desktop and open it. There it is right there. Click on that. So it opened my report in a new web browser window, as you see up here. And again, like I say, this is actually a web page if you wanted to keep it as that. So now down here in my report, I've got a lot of options using the browser print functions up here. So clicking on this guy up here, going down to print, I can say I want to print it to a PDF file. You've got the option to drop down your printer to Microsoft Print to PDF. There's several different ones of those. I typically use Microsoft Print to PDF. I can print it. I can print it to obviously to a piece of paper in my printer if I want to do that. And again, I can save it as a web page. The other thing some people like to do with the reports is actually put those into a Word document. So if I click anywhere on a report and then hit Control A on my keyboard, which is select all, and then I hit Control C to copy it. The next thing I would want to do is open a blank Word document. Typically what I like to do personally is put it in landscape mode and put narrow margins, and it seems to really make it fit really well. And then I would just paste this right into that Word document, Control V, paste it into the Word document. It'll show up looking exactly like this. And this is, again, the HTML formatting is compatible with the Word formatting. So everything that you see on this report will appear in your Word document. And the reason some people like to do that is they might want to take out the vision, mission, and values for some reason up there, or they might want to put some highlights in here or some other additional notes and things like that. So once you get it in Word, you can do all kinds of different things with it in there, but real simple to do. So you get a lot of different options once you generate the report. And again, the operational plan report. So before I get into VMSG public, well, I'm sorry, I neglected to get into the other reports here. So let's go ahead and talk about the other reports up here. So back to my reports menu. The second most common report is this team lead report. And what that shows me is how is a specific person doing in their, what are they doing and how are they doing in their particular assignments. So the first thing I have, you just see Steve Hansen is the only one that shows up because he's the only guy assigned to the tobacco group. I could go up and hit this all button and say, show me everybody in the department. I can go down again and select Steve. Down here at the bottom, I have several options. One is individual. What that means is the person I have selected up here is the person I'm going to report on. If I said group, and depending on what group I have selected here at my drop down, so it could be my strategic plan or it could be my community health division, the people assigned to that group, the report will show up for everybody assigned to that group. All says everybody in the department. Now I'm going to forewarn you that if you select all, it's going to have, and you have, a dozen people in your department, it's going to be a big, long report that you're going to generate here. It'll take a little while to generate, so be patient with it. Over here at the bottom right, we can select either the activity level or the objective level. I'm going to go ahead and select the objective level. When I select objectives, then this little guy down here just doesn't really matter at that point in time, because what this is telling me is if I've got the activity selected, I can say I want to look at this person as either a team member or a team lead, or I can just say just where he's a team member and not a team lead, or just where he's a team lead and not a team member. And then my options over here, the magnifying glass says basically give me an editable screen. So let's click on that for Steve. And what it's going to do is give me an editable screen of the objectives that Steve has been assigned to. And there's a bunch of them because it's demo data in here. But I can go down and pick these objectives. So you'll see Steve is the objective lead down here. And where this comes in handy is, Steve is going to retire or Steve has left the organization. I want to go in and find out everything Steve was assigned to and then reassign it to somebody else. So it gives you the option to be able to do that at that point. And again, I can do this at the objective or the activity level. Go back here. So again, then the other option I have down here would be to actually generate a report. So basically it's going to be the same thing that you just saw in a report format. So we don't necessarily need to go in there. But what that allows you to do, let's say you're going to have a performance meeting with Steve, and you just want to be able to bring up everything that Steve is doing. You're going to generate a report that says, here's every activity and the status and the traffic lights and the whole 9 yards in there. So you can sit down with Steve in a meeting and just say, here's everything it looks like that you're doing right now. Where do you need help? Where can we bring in people to help you? Whatever it needs to be done. So that's the team lead report. It's really, again, it's the second most commonly used report in the system here. The next report we're going to talk about are your partners. So remember, you can have external partners that you attach to activities. So the first thing you might want to look is just the list of partners that you have. So you can see in our demo organization, we have these 4 different partners. You may recall that we assigned VMSG Dashboard and Fred Erickson at VMSG Dashboard as the external partner for the tobacco cessation, one of the activities in there. A couple of options that you have over here. Do you want to print the selected partner only? So in this case, do I want to just print VMSG Dashboard? I'm going to say no. Maybe I'll say no. Do you want to print the contacts? So within each partner, there might be several contact people associated. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And then do you want to print the detail, meaning you just want the names of the organization and the partners, or do you want their phone numbers and email addresses and such? I'll go ahead and say yes. And now when I generate the report, it's going to show me all of the partners within USA Public Health. So you see the 4 different partner organizations, and then down here you can see the contact and their email, phone numbers, fax, all that kind of stuff in there. So it just gives you the ability to look at your partner list. And again, where this comes in handy is at some point in time, these partners tend to go away or change out. You might look at the list and say, oh, Joe's car seat installation is no longer a partner with us. We'll go ahead and remove him from the list, something along that line. Now, the other thing we have at the partner level, go back here, is partner activities. So what activities are the partners assigned to? So let's go down and look at our VMSG dashboard again. So the left side is my partner organizations. The right side are the contacts within that organization. In this case, we only have Fred Erickson as a partner. If I go up to Andrea's car seat installation, you can see we have Fred and Andrea as partners in there. But for now, I'm just going to go down to VMSG dashboard. And I got a couple of options down here at the bottom. Again, my partner search gives me an editable screen to be able to change that out. Again, I got partners that I'm not using anymore or have left the state or whatever happens to be in there, and I want to change them out. I can go in and do that. The other thing I can do is I just want to say over here where I'm using, where I'm using just Fred Erickson at VMSG dashboard. So let's say I had 5 people listed down here at VMSG dashboard. I can just say, hey, I just want to see where Fred is attached because Fred is leaving the organization or whatever. So over here, I'm looking at where the organization is attached. Over here, I'm looking where a specific partner within the organization is attached. So if I go down and click on the search button here, I'll go down to community health again. So again, I'm going to look and see where VMSG dashboard is attached. No hidden services. And what it's going to do is, again, give me that editable screen that I can go down here and make the changes to the partners in the activities. So you see the 4 different ones down here at the bottom where Fred Erickson is, or VMSG dashboard is attached. So I could go in here and change this out, delete it or whatever I need to do to get that partner off of there. So it's a nice tool, again, if your partners are changing out, that sort of thing. The other thing I have is the ability to generate a report. So I go back down to my VMSG dashboard, Fred Erickson. So I want to know where Fred Erickson is working with us on everything, where that might come in handy, again, if you're going to have a meeting with Fred, just to kind of review everything that he's doing with the department in there. I can generate that report so you can work off of the report. So I can go down here and if I use this button over here, it's generating the report for the specific contact. So I'll go ahead and generate that. Take a few seconds to generate the report. And then again, what I'm going to have is basically a report document that I can use throughout my meeting with Fred to determine, is this all you're working on? Are there other things that you're working on that we don't have listed down here? Or the things you've done working on, whatever it happens to be. So again, kind of the same information we just saw in a report format here. So again, print this report off, sit down at your meeting with Fred and just talk about everything that you're doing in there. So those are the reports I wanted to talk about today. But again, before I go any farther, are there any questions on any of the reports?
I have 2 questions.
Yes,
The documents, can they only be PDFs or can we upload an Excel spreadsheet?
You can upload any kind of document you want. It can be a movie file, audio file, video file, whatever you want.
And then for the partners list, that's we are taking our VMSG software and inputting the partners activity, correct? We're not, the organization doesn't have to have its own VMSG to link it, I guess.
Well, you are the organization. Clifton Health Department is the organization.
And we would put in, let's say, if we wanted to work with our Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah, let me show you real quick.
The question is, how do we input partners?
Okay, well, I'll show you that. Very, very simple. So I'm going down and selecting your organization. Go down to our groups here. Go to the main menu, the gray button at the top right, and then go down to the partners right here. And when I click on that, so you have no partners in there. To enter a partner, I just click on this button, and you can see down there you've got the, if they have a parent company, the partner name, their address, city, state, zip, website, any notes about the partner, all that information. So this is the partner organization on the left. Once you create a partner organization, then you can go over here and add contacts to that organization. So you got the people's name, their title, phone, cell, fax, et cetera down there. Now, one thing that I'll show you is that you see this button that says active next to me here, and you got an active button over here on the contact. You can anybody can put a partner in, but only a manager or an org admin person can activate the partner. And what that means is they're in the system, but when you go to the activity level and select the little button down there where it says to add a partner, they won't show up until they've been activated. The reason for that is if anybody can add a partner, there's a chance of having duplicate partners. I'll tell you exactly where that came from. Here in Arizona, we have ADHS, Arizona Department of Health Services. Their website is AZDHS. So there's a bunch of partners in there, and somebody didn't really check it out. So they put in duplicate partners under ADHS and AZDHS. So the idea is you can activate the ones that you want to show up and deactivate the ones that you don't want to show up. So just real simple to go in and add the partners, add the contacts of the partners. You can have as many partners in there as you want.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Any other questions on reports?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, I had to get my earphones because the microphone wasn't working. I'm sorry. So going back, to the graphs because I couldn't talk at that time. We're doing well.
Let me go back to
Long dog license compliance. I'm putting. That's where I got lost.
okay. Hold on. Well, I'll tell you what, let's go. So we're in Clifton.
We're in Clifton.
Which group were you looking at? Animal control?
It would be
It'll be
2022.
the quality life improvement.
Quality improvement.
2022 QI will be dog licenses.
So QI 2022 plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Click on that. Let's go down and see under here. I see.
Administrative. It's under administrative.
Okay. Increase the dog license renewal compliance.
Yes.
Okay. So at this point in time, your status is the traffic light. So you set the traffic light. Green means things are moving along as expected. Yellow means something's potentially slowing you down. Red means something bad happened, brought us to a halt. Gold bar would indicate successful completion. As you get underneath that, then when you get to your objectives, like increase dog license compliant rate to 91% by 12/31/22, Down here is your current status. So that's where you'd enter that information. So you'd say we're at 90% or whatever. Now, obviously, this is,
So I would have to enter each month there, because I was entering it under the activities.
well, you can enter, the activities are something different. So we have increased dog license compliance. Now, what are the activities here? So the activities we have mailed out. Yeah, so your activities, you're putting in the actual values over here for your activities down here. Yeah, you're at 100%, so you're at a gold here. So yeah,
So
and
the January,
go
so I
ahead.
was putting in a percentage there, so that's the wrong place?
No, that's for the activity itself.
Okay.
The objective is a separate, just think of it as a separate element here. Hopefully your activity
so-
will get you to this 91%, but you're going to somehow have to determine, am I at 91% or at 90% or 95% or whatever.
Is that the list each month separately?
Yeah, probably.
Okay,
Or however, I mean, you do it quarterly or whenever you want to do it.
okay. Thank you.
And then this is the value that will be plotted in that chart. If I click on the chart, which there's probably no value in there right now, when I click on the chart, it would show me historically, okay, we were at 20%, 25, 30, 40, and 90.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, I got that. Thank you.
Okay. Let's go back here now. We're going to look at VMSG Public. And I'm going to look at your strategic plan. So what we're going to do is we're going to generate a web page for the strategic plan as a whole. And then we're going to generate a what we'll call an indicator row for each of these 4 services down here. So let's start with the groups screen here. Click on this. This is the VMSG Public button, the little colored faces in here. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. If I recall, you didn't have many activities, so I'm going to summarize at the objective level here. So I got my choice of summarize at the goal, objective, and activities. And basically what I'm doing is counting the number of traffic lights in each level. So let's go ahead and click objectives. And it's going to give me what we call an indicator row for the entire strategic plan. So here it is. So when I roll over, it says we have, looks like 38 green and 32 gold and, oops, come on, yellow, 28 yellow and 17 red. And it's showing right now that we're 98 days behind schedule, probably because the activity timelines weren't set there. So this is the first row for the entire strategic plan up there. I'm going to go ahead and save it with the button down here. So now I have an indicator row for my strategic plan. The next thing I want to do is go back and grab one for each of the services or initiatives. So the first one, community health improvement planning, same button down here. Objectives are fine. We'll indicate or I'll summarize at that level. It's going to generate a second row for me here. Again, I can do my rollover and see we got 6 gold and 1 yellow, 1 green, and looks like we're right on schedule here. Save that. Now we see we have the 2 indicator rows. Go back to our services tab, grab the second one down here. Go ahead and generate the indicator row for that at the objective level. So then we have, looks like 4 gold and 2 green, 2 yellow on track. Go back to the third one, workforce development, generate the indicator row. And you can go, right now we're just going at the service level, but I can generate a row at the goal level, the objective level, the activity level, and I can also generate a line chart when I get down to the objective and activity level, the same micro level charts we were looking at here. So again, here's my rollovers. I've got all that. And then we got one more in there to do. Our data collection, go ahead and generate that. And I'll show you where you can find all these and you can manipulate them and such. So I got 14 yellow and 14 red and 2 gold in here. We'll save that. So these are the 5 indicator rows that we want to put on our web page. Now that I've got them in place here, I'm just going to go export them to a web page. So I'll click on that. And then poof, presto, changeo, here's our web page. So at the very top is our strategic plan. And by the way, you can change this text over here. I'll show you that in a few minutes here. And then for each of the initiatives down here or services, I've got community health improvement, shows us the status down here. Got voluntary national public health accreditation, got workforce development, and I've got data collection down here. So this is the plan that this is the web page that we want to create. If I like it, I'm going to go ahead and save it. And now it gives me the option to put a description in here. We'll just put the demo and we'll save it. Now, when I do that, it generates this web link here. This link, as you can look, is hosted up on our servers, but it's the link to that web page. So I'm going to go ahead and grab it with a Control-C here. I'm going to go up to my, open up a new browser tab, paste it in there, Control-V, so that's the link. Hit enter, and poof, there's my web page. So what you're showing them is basically the status of your strategic plan at the top level. Again, I can go all the way down to the activity level and the goal level. I can create line charts down there when I get down to those levels, because that's the micro level down there. But basically, all you're doing is creating a web page. So you can take this link, you can put it in an email and send it out, maybe to the board. Maybe they'd be interested in seeing the status of the strategic plan. Maybe you could ask your IT folks to put it up on the website so that your community can see how you're doing on your strategic plan, your tobacco plan, whatever it happens to be in there. So that is the VMSG public web page. Now, to get to those indicator rows and the web page, you just click on the main menu again, scroll down to the bottom. So you'll see have VMSG public manage performance indicator rows. So that's the rows that we did. Then we have the one web page. So let's go look at the indicator rows here. So you see the 5 different indicator rows. Now on this first one up here, what I probably wanted it to say was strategic plan. So down here is my text. A couple different things I can do. You notice it's got a bunch of crazy tags in here. These are HTML tags. If you're familiar with HTML, it's a piece of cake. You know what these tags are about. If you're not, just Google HTML tags and it'll show you exactly how to put these in here. I'll walk you through the ones that we normally use, but I can just go in here now and change this to strategic plan. And I can put in, what was it, 2019 through 2023 or something like that, 224. And then I'll go ahead and save that. And now when I go ahead and look at that indicator row again, the text has changed now to my strategic plan over here. So you have a lot of options to change this text over here. I'll kind of walk you through. You can just type in text here and put in whatever you want, or you can put in fonts and bolds and that kind of stuff. So let's go take a look at those. So here's the ones that I commonly use in there. These are the ones that the system uses, the HTML codes. So font is the kind of the most complex one in here. So you got a little less than sign or an open bracket font. It's selecting an Arial font. The size is 2. I think it goes from 1 to 7. The color is navy. I can put in dark red. I can put in green. I put in whatever I want. Basically, it'll find a color. There's also, if you want to put in the code for the color, you can put a pound sign and a 6-digit code to get right down to that exact color, maybe to match your website or something. What I'm working on is the font for this right here, text here, and it'll end up looking like this. My close tag, again, is my little less than sign / font. So I have font and / font, close it, and it's going to look like this. If I want to bold the text, I can just put the bracket B and the bracket /B around the text, and it shows up bold. Same thing with italics, the bracket I and the bracket /I, my text turns italic. I can put the bolds outside the italics and have a bold italics if I want. So it's all real simple. And then BR is just basically a carriage return or a line break. There's no close tag, as you notice, for this one. So you just put it at the end of the line where you want to have a line wrap in there. So I can go in and just wipe out all that stuff and just type in the text. It'll give me a default, I think a default Arial font size 2 or 3, something like that I can put in there. But then I can also go in. You can put in there, by the way, you can put in web links. You can put in graphics, images, that sort of thing. If you get familiar with HTML, it's very simple to do in there. So that was what I had to show you today. Any questions, anything else you'd like to see?
No, I think that was everything. Thank you so much, Fred. We
Oh,
learned a lot.
Oh, good. Well, if you have any questions as you're going through this and something doesn't make sense, please feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to work with you.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you so much. Will we be able to get the slides and the recording?
I will thank you for this. Let me shut off the recording.